All right, you ready?
We are ready.
All right, off we go.
All right, very good. Welcome and good morning to our meeting here on Monday, December 21st. Call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, Amy, I know we've had some counselors bouncing in and out of here, but can you call attendance, please?
Yes. President Garrett?
Yes.
Vice President Traylor?
He was here. I think he popped off.
You lost him again.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I see him again.
Okay. Counselor Burke?
Here.
Counselor Choi?
Yes.
Counselor Culp?
He is attempting to get in from what
Okay.
I've heard, but not here yet.
Counselor Melton? Yes. Okay.
Here.
Counselor Plunkett? Okay.
Very good. First up, we've got an approval of the memorandum of the December 7th, 2020 regular meeting. A copy has been posted. Councilors, any questions on that?
Make a motion to approve.
First from Councilor Plunkett, second from Councilor Melton. Amy, can you roll call that?
Yeah. President Garrett?
Yes.
Vice President Traylor? I think we've lost him again. Counselor Burke?
Yes.
Counselor Choi?
Yes.
Counselor Culp? And we don't have him yet. Counselor Melton?
Yes.
Okay, and Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
The memorandum of the December 7th, 2020 regular meeting is approved by a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we've got request to speak. If anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand. I see one hand raised. Amy, I also see that Vice President Traylor has rejoined. If you can promote
Okay.
Mr. Triscari. Good morning, Mr. Triscari. I think you know the drill here, but 3 minutes and name and address, and I'll start you after that point. The floor is yours.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. My name is Craig Triscari at 3270 Paddock Road. As of December 2020, Van Trust has still failed to run an 8-inch line into Saratoga after the December 2018 rezoning, requiring Van Trust to run the line when they set up their water. We are at the 2-year plus mark from when this council approved their commitment. Van Trust has told this board they have 17 homes that have signed for, that are willing to sign for water over the amount they need to implement. They told this board that phase 1 was not tied to phase 2 commitment, but they have done exactly that. They have committed to plant 8-foot trees, but instead planted 4 to 5 foot trees. They have said they would correct the problems when they have been caught in violation, but they have failed to do anything. This town and council has failed to do anything. The town council a few months ago voted unanimously to give Van Trust millions of dollars tax giveaways to include paying nothing the first year after opening. Van Trust gets a free pass and has failed to meet its basic commitments to this community. The council members that monitor and manage development continue to do nothing as these big box stores or billion-dollar developers dot our farmland with ugly box turds. The Whitestown approach is build it bad and build it fast so that the state has to come in and fix the problems. The approach of let's talk to the other communities to pay for our town because we have given away taxes to these big multi-billion-dollar developer companies is their approach. If you plan to buy a home within Zionsville address, be very cautious. Leadership doesn't abide by their comprehensive plans, nor do they care about the property value. Homeowners on 421 or near highways look to reduce your taxes in Zionsville based on the reckless development and revitalization, corporate tax giveaways, and fiascos. The town council has provided to date 0 value added to the greater rural community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scary, and happy holidays to you as well. Amy, I see another hand raised from a Hendricks J.
Okay.
And Amy, Councilor Culp has now joined the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. All I know you as is Hendricks J, but if you can give your name and address for the record and then have 3 minutes to speak on your topic. And it looks like you're currently on mute.
Hello, my name is Justin Hendricks, and I live at 302 South 800 East, right at the intersection of 800 and Oak. I got a letter on Wednesday about a proposed roundabout on 800 and Oak, and the very next day they were putting up stakes. It floored me because this hasn't been on any of the town's published long-term plans that I've been able to find. There's been lots of hearsay, but nothing actually published for people to find. I initially told my wife that maybe this plan was merely the town doing its due diligence to be able to put it on the 2020 long-term plan. But then we talked to Lance and he told us to prepare ourselves because this was going to happen soon. The construction hopefully beginning in 2022. Devastating. I implore you to consider a few things before this project is given the go-ahead. Come out and look at the stakes and consider where this roundabout will go. When I look at it, I think about trying to cross the street to get my mail when there isn't a light causing people to stop. Walking our dog with my daughter down to Eaglewood. It's busy enough now without the improved traffic flow that Lance speaks of. My daughter won't be able to ride her bike in our shortened driveway because people will inevitably use it as a turnaround. I think about the elevation difference between the road and my garage and the new slope on the shortened driveway that will cause water to flood my garage and potentially my basement. After you look at those stakes as a comparison, I ask that you go walk the roundabout at 96th in town and pay close attention to the vacant properties at the northeast and southeast corners and see how potentially devastating its impact could be on the families that make this intersection their home. You might rationalize by saying this is for the greater good. It will improve traffic flow and create a safer environment. However, nearly every accident there is caused by somebody turning left. I may not be a traffic engineer, but merely adding a turn lane to the existing light can alleviate the problem by giving people a lane to wait for the green arrow while the surrounding traffic continues on. My question is, what's the cost and local impact difference between that and the roundabout? As far as I can tell, all anyone has looked at is a roundabout. Please don't rush this decision. Look at other possibilities before shoehorning an expensive roundabout into an intersection where it doesn't fit. When I bought this home, there were 7 offers on it the first day it was available. I am scared to death that this roundabout will decimate its market appeal. Once again, see 96th in town. I've talked to 3 of my neighbors so far, and all of us are extremely anxious about its impact and our desire to live there with a roundabout. Please don't rush this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just made the 3-minute mark. Well timed. Appreciate your comments.
Hey, Josh, before we let him go, he's gone.
can
If
bring
we
it
could
back.
pull him back. Yeah, I'm just curious when he bought the property, because this has been in conversation for years. So I'd just be curious to know when he bought the property.
Mr. Hendricks, did you hear the question there from
I
Vice President
did.
Trailer?
I did. It has been in conversation. I brought the property back in 2015, and the light was put in 2016 as a possible temporary stopgap. However, there has been no public notice. I have not heard anything about this until we got the letter on Wednesday. And then to hear that it's coming and we'll be getting offers in March. And talking about proposed improvements is a lot different than finding out that you're going to be taking half an acre out of my property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Amy. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands raised. So we will move on from.
Josh?
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Hendricks, you can find my email online. If you could send me an email, I'd like to come out and see the property and take a look and visit with you. So if you would do that, Mr. Hendricks, that would be great.
Okay, will do.
Thanks, Councilor Choi. Next, we've got the mayor administration update. Amy, is there anything? I know that the mayor is on vacation. And I don't see the deputy mayor there. Is there any other updates from administration?
I think Tammy has some things she wants to say.
Okay, great. Tammy, the floor is yours.
I just have one quick item for this portion of the meeting. And in an effort to collect the money that is due to the town of Zionsville, we would like to enter into an agreement with the Indiana County's Clearinghouse Tax Refund Exchange and Compliance Systems. Basically, what that is that the local governments can submit our debt over to the Department of Revenue, and then it will take the amount owed from the individual, what is owed on their tax refund, what they would be getting, and it would allow us to collect what is due to us. And so this isn't a resolution or an ordinance. It is merely seeking approval from council that they are in support of the administration entering into this memorandum of understanding.
How much is owed to us, Tammy?
So we're going to collect that information and compile it. Right now, we have many different systems, as you know, and we need to establish the processes for when we're going to turn it over. But seeing as though we're going to a new financial system, that would be a good time to submit and to clean all of this information up. And then when we're going into the new financial system, we'll have a good clean start, because we will be doing invoicing out of the systems. Currently today, they are tracked, some of them in Excel spreadsheets and things like that. And so we are going to do our due diligence over the next few months to make sure that we really understand what is owed to us. And then we can establish a process going forward to be able to collect that which is owed.
Do those people that owe money have I guess I'm just nervous about just randomly turning over someone's name to a taxing
there would be
authority.
A process.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct. There would definitely be a process, and they would get a letter from the town first and things like that. There would be notices and all of that. Absolutely.
Got it. And is it just individuals or is it businesses as well?
It is individuals only for this program that we have identified, correct. There is no limited liability or corporations or anything involved in this particular program. So we would have a different company for that. So
is the ask for a vote today then on approving that, even though it's not needed? What, I guess I appreciate the update, but is this just an update, or is there anything we need to do?
I think we just need to record it in the minutes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That it was just presented to the council.
Right.
Got it. That makes sense. Councilors, any other questions for Tammy on that?
It sounds like this goes against their, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this would, if they owed anything to the town, this would go against their Indiana individual return. So
yes,
that would be deducted before they would get any refund.
Right. So any debt owed over $25, and then it would be taken off of. So if someone owed $30 and someone was going to get $100, then they would get $70 instead.
And is that just general debt, or is that a local tax that's not collected?
No, it's any government debt. So any, like from the fire department or wastewater, things like that.
If they had a speeding ticket they hadn't paid, could that go against it?
Yeah, we are looking into that, but I believe so, yes, because it is owed to the town.
Yeah.
So other communities, Fishers has implemented and seen a lot of success in collections off of this program, for example.
Let me know how much I owe, Tammy.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got old business. Actually, Tammy, you stay right there. We've got a consideration of the 2021 salary ordinance for the town of Zionsville. This is a second reading and it's ordinance 2020-19. Tammy, I believe there was a small change to this between what
there
we
was no
voted
change
on, or
since.
was it not?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. The one small change was that on the police department, the uniformed officers, that there was a 1% increase off of what you saw at the introduction. And this is just to get up to parity. If you recall from the budget presentation, that alignment with the fire department from the police department was included in the budget, as well as a 1% increase. And this just clarified that it included the 1% on top of the proposed from last time. And it's setting the maximum amounts.
Yep. Counselors, any questions on this?
I think there was also, and just through the emails, Tammy, that we exchanged over the weekend, there was also a position that was not included in the first one that is on this one, the administrative assistant in the Department of Public Works. That was just not included on the December 7th meeting, and it was included on this one. After going back and forth with Tammy and Lance, it is an administrative position to the Department of Public Works that was initially planned for anyway, just left off the first time.
And I believe it was included on the December 7th town council meeting. There was an update on December 4th. I think it might have just been an update to the agenda packet that was caught before the meeting, is how I understood it. And we can clarify, but the version that is posted right now includes all of these changes and is the most up-to-date version.
And that those positions were budgeted. They
Yes.
just didn't appear on the first version that was sent to council, but the updated version that was sent to council. But before the December 7th meeting, correct?
Before the 7th.
And then this one is just having that 1%.
Absolutely.
For police officers, but was also budgeted, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Makes sense, council. Any questions or motions on this? I'll make a motion to approve then.
Second.
Is that Councilor Choi? Councilor
Correct.
Burke? Sorry, Councilor Burke with the second. Amy, if you want to do a roll call.
All right, President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Milton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Ordinance number 2020-19 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Hey, Josh, before we go on,
Yeah.
this is a great example talking about that the version that maybe Jason was reading from was in our council packet, and then it was updated a few days later between the council meeting and between the packet, the official packet coming out and the council meeting. That's happening more and more and more and more. And it gets really confusing to make sure that we are seeing the most up to date. And I know I voiced this in an email and Tammy said I could check the website. We expect the packet that we get on the Tuesday before the meeting to be accurate and to be, I understand there's certain occasional instances where an emergency is going to come up or something's going to need to be tweaked. And on occasion, that's one thing, but this is like regular occurrence. We have meetings essentially every 2 weeks. So I would just say that going forward, if we need to make updates, we take it off the agenda unless it's an emergency situation. Take it off the agenda, add it to the next one so that we get it in our packet it's just, we get too many emails from too many people, too many different updates, and it gets lost. I just wanted to make that point.
Well, and I think your point is well founded, Vice President Traylor. And if you see your email this weekend, Amy and I have been working on a process, and just so council knows and the public knows as well, going forward, all items in their final form will be due by the close of business on the Monday before the next meeting. So if the meeting is on the 21st for this meeting, they will be due to Amy by the 14th close of business. Those will then be all presented to myself or whoever council president is and council's council. I always love saying that, for review on the Tuesday, and then finalized and sent out to the councilors on the Wednesday. So when you receive that packet on Wednesday, that will be in its final form. If something changes, something's been left out, there's an addition needed, whatever that might be, instead of having to sort of keep sending updates and sending new packets, we're just going to pull that item from the packet. So in the case of this salary ordinance going forward, what would have happened is it really wouldn't actually be on today's meeting. It would be on our next meeting, which I think is on the 4th, and we would be able to vote on it there. It's because it's a new process. It didn't seem fair to implement it for this meeting, with days to go. And I know some of the agenda items today have some time sensitivity because of the end of the year. But I think your point is very valid, Mr. President Traylor. I've heard this from almost every counselor, and myself included. There is a lot of confusion of, well, what should I be reading? Did that happen? And I think this will help clarify a lot of that. So when you get your packet, it should be finalized. The only thing that would change is you would only see something pulled off if it needs to be modified and then moved to the next agenda. You would not see an updated ordinance. You would not see an additional item coming after that packet has come on the Wednesday. Any concerns from that, councilors, or any questions on that?
Well, didn't we already have a Monday prior to, 1 week prior deadline now?
We did, and I'm going to take the fall for that.
It's not really new.
It's not really new, but I think this weekend it was really communicated or re-communicated, if you want, to all department heads, to administration, counselors. You were on that message as well, as was administration, council, and council. I will tell you that on me, I've been a little lax in sort of allowing some of those things to go through, and so I just wanted to reset for 2021, called the New Year's resolution, to put a little more order to the process. Good. It's a good point and well timed, though, Vice President Traylor.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
So ultimately, I just want clarification. You have the authority to remove it from the meeting schedule. Is that correct?
Yeah, the council president can remove it, especially if there's a change requested.
Just want to clarify. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, well, we'll move on to our second old business item. I don't think this one changed, so that's a good thing. This is a consideration of an ordinance establishing the budget for non-DLGF funds. This is a second reading, and it's ordinance 2020-20. Tammy, anything else you want to add to this or updates to this one?
Nope, there's no updates as presented.
Very good. Councilors, any questions on this one? Any motions on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve.
First from Vice President Traylor.
Second.
Second from Councilor Choi. Amy?
Okay, President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Traylor,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Ordinance number 2020-20 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Tammy, you get a little break, but not too much of one. Moving on to new business, we've got the Climate Action Plan report. This is being presented by Carol Johnson and Maddie Miller. Amy, I know you're in the process of promoting them. I see them both online.
Good morning.
Good morning, Maddie. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, counselors. I appreciate you taking the time this morning to hear the presentation on Zionsville's first climate action plan. My name is Carol Johnson. I am the executive assistant to the mayor. Since July, I have managed the town's climate action planning program and process and have worked closely with IU graduate student Madeline Miller. Maddie has worked as Zionsville's extern for the past 6 months. She's a graduate of Butler University's biology department and has recently completed work on dual master's degrees, finishing them just last week. I can imagine a formal ceremony recognizing her accomplishments will be delayed, so I want to just take a moment to recognize her publicly for completing her work on her Master of Public Affairs and her Master of Science in Environmental Science. In just a moment, she's going to share a presentation briefly summarizing the Climate Action Plan and providing a high-level overview. We're joined virtually by members of the steering committee. We look forward to putting this plan into action and welcome your partnership in these efforts. Maddie?
Thank you, Carol. I will share my screen. Can everybody see my slides?
You got it, Maddie. Thank you.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Carol, for that nice introduction. As she said, I'm going to give sort of a high-level overview of the Climate Action Plan, what it accomplishes, what it intends to do, and a couple steps for the future. There we go. So what is a Climate Action Plan? A climate action plan, or a CAP, is a strategic plan containing policies and programs that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and address climate vulnerabilities. The community-wide emissions from 2018 were inventoried in Zionsville, and future emissions were forecasted based on expected population growth in Zionsville. And this data was used to develop the plan. So on the right, there is a cycle of milestones to accomplish in climate action planning. This figure was provided by ICLEI, which is Local Governments for Sustainability USA. And we are about in between, I guess, milestone 3 and 4. The climate action plan is finished, and we're looking for steps to start implementing. So what are Zionsville's goals with the climate action plan? So the town would like to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote climate resilience by 1, promoting access to clean energy and energy savings for both residential and commercial sectors, promoting green transportation in any way possible, promoting and providing additional methods of waste diversion, and advancing local sustainability. And if you walk through the climate action plan itself, you can see that each of these goals have several strategies associated with them. Some of them directly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and some of them pertain solely to sustainability, but are nonetheless important. As Zionsville continues to grow, the goal is to stabilize emissions or gradually get them to start decreasing. This is because the town's population is growing quite quickly, and in between the 2018 greenhouse gas inventory and the end of our projection, which is the end of the year 2049, the population is expected to double. But climate action planning has several co-benefits, so we wanted to highlight a couple different benefits that come along with the climate action planning, and these include cost savings, increased equity, economic growth, better public health, improved natural environment, and community engagement. So this is the greenhouse gas inventory from 2018. You can see that residential energy makes up the largest portion of greenhouse gas emissions in Zionsville, and this comes from residents purchasing and using electricity and natural gas. Commercial energy is the same vein, but with commercial buildings, and for Zionsville's purposes, this also includes government buildings. Mobile sources and transportation make up the second largest piece of this equation. So that is equipment, like farm equipment, and mostly vehicles, single passenger vehicles. And then we have water and wastewater, which is any greenhouse gas produced from water treatment, solid waste, and process and fugitive emissions, which is inefficiencies in systems and leakages.
Maddie, do you ever look at farm emissions as well, given that we still have a rural component of Zionsville, or is this just
Yeah, so
human
the
induced?
mobile sources includes farming equipment.
What about like livestock and stuff like that? Or is that just really not so small, doesn't matter?
That's not included in here. I'm not actually sure. The greenhouse gas inventory was done slightly before I came into the picture over the summer, but I would assume that it doesn't weigh too heavily in Zionsville's case.
Okay.
Based on this 2018 baseline data, we used ClearPath, which is an online tool through ICLEI, to forecast future emissions. And this is what emissions would look like business as usual. So if none of the energy companies that Zionsville uses had any sort of reductions to their carbon intensity, and if the population truly did double, this is where emissions will be by the end of 2049. There's some pretty massive growth, and obviously a lot of this is in transportation and residential energy, since there will be at some point twice as many people living in Zionsville. However, as we develop this greenhouse gas plan, climate action plan, we worked with and studied the energy companies and their emissions reductions goals. And then after deciding which strategies that Zionsville should implement over the next several years, this is where we predict that greenhouse gas emissions will reduce to. And we can see there's quite a reduction in residential energy usage and a little bit in definitely in commercial energy. And transportation is a difficult thing to tackle in Zionsville, given the low population density and the fact that a lot of people who live in Zionsville work elsewhere. But essentially, we're getting emissions to flatten out over time, which effectively reduces the per capita emissions by 50%. So what comes next for Zionsville now that we have this plan created? Well, first we invite the council to formally adopt the climate action plan. And the town of Zionsville will continue to work with Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute, which is the organization in which I interned through. And of course, the Zionsville community to work to reduce these emissions and potentially come up with more strategies that will be good for the town. And we will share progress updates on the plan every couple years, every 3 years, and update the greenhouse gas reduction strategies as previous goals and strategies are completed. And with that, we will happily take any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Maddie, and congrats on your master's degrees, plural. Counselors, any questions for Maddie or Carol on this? All right. We appreciate you getting up early and sharing this information with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good week.
Thank you, Maddie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Now we've got a consideration of a resolution regarding the use of certain funds for the town of Zionsville, Indiana Parks and Recreation Department. This is resolution 2020-18. Tammy, back to you.
Sure. So as we talked during the budget process, we have several resolutions, one of these being the Parks Department that has a separate fund that has a cash balance in it. In 2021, the actual expenses will be coming out of the general fund. This resolution says that any transferred amounts from the Parks Fund will go into the general fund and be earmarked for capital purposes only. And the capital purposes, if you remember, are clearly marked in the chart of accounts, saying that the 400s denote the capital expenses. So this will make it really easy to track and report on the capital expenses and how much cash balance is left at the end of the year.
Good. I know this was something that was important to council going through the budget process with some of the other funds that were being sort of stored for future use for capital projects. So thank you. Councilors, any questions on this one related to parks? And we've got another one coming up related to fire.
I have just a couple of things that I'm curious about. I realize this ship has sailed, but and Councilor Traylor and I talked a lot about this in meetings before. I'm wondering if this is a bell that can be unrung. And I say that because if we're one of the reasons for combining these assets was to participate or leverage the money for a significantly better rate of return. And my question goes to, for example, we've got, we've been talking about these legal fees forever, and the Plan Commission has a budget for a legal fee amount that's not used, and that money stays in the general account and can be used for other things like covering the almost $100,000 shortfall we have now. My question is, if we're going to put money in these accounts to leverage a better rate of return, is there any way for those departments to capture that rate of return and have that sent back to them or used for them? I guess I'm one thing I've learned in this budget process is the discretion that the administration has with some of these funds is a little bit different than my original interpretation. And I guess I'm curious to see what happens to the interest and the rate of return, or those assets that come in as it relates to, since we've leveraged them from different departments. I realize, that ship's probably already sailed, but if that's something a bell we can unring now or in the future, I would certainly have interest in doing that.
And I can speak to the general concept that we are trying to make with the budget process. And when we receive dollars from the state, whether it be or from the county for the property taxes and for the local income taxes, that is the town's money to be used for our plans. And so this goes back to how we are going to have a long range plan of all of the departments and how we expect the needs of each of those departments to change over time. So in 1 year, the parks might be doing a large capital expense, and say this is after the earmarks have run out, right? So after the money has been spent from fire and police for capital funds, there's a need for, say, something in the parks department. These dollars that are coming in from property taxes and from local income taxes, which are the main sources of revenue for the town, those would be allocated based on the need. So it's not accounting for the money when it's coming in, it's accounting for the money by department when it's going out. So as the needs change year to year, the town is able to manage the spend and to be able to track it by the actual amount spent, because what you may need in 1 year might be different than another year. And giving the town the flexibility to meet the needs and to support all of the departments, because we are all supporting the town residents, is where we aim to go.
So there's no way to track the money. I know we're earmarking things coming in, and so what you're saying is part of the reason, as we discussed before, having this money coming into the same account is to leverage a significantly better rate of return. There's no way to make sure that that rate of return is done, it goes anywhere except for in the general account to be used at the administration's discretion.
The general account is there to support all the departments of the town. It has the same tax base, right? So all of the general fund supports the same residents in the town. And so being able to be flexible and to be able to support the needs as they change is the most important thing. When we talk to the Department of Local Government Finance about collapsing this fund, they're like, absolutely, because if you need to build if you have a big capital need and say need to build the fire station and there are $0 in the allocated to the fire department in the fire fund, then you have to cut your budget and you can't do it. But if you have it in the general fund, then the town's money and the town has prioritized its needs, then that's where the money can be used for. So it's giving more resources to the departments as they need them. And it's less about capturing how much each department is allocated in a certain time amount in a certain time.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to ask maybe I'm asking the wrong question, because I understand the money that was in the fire department, the money that was in the parks department initially, or as we said here today, can be used for those things. And then in the event that we need to use general account money, we could do a reappropriation and help them and disseminate additional dollars. My question is, once that money goes into the general account, there's a above and beyond, providing those resources. When we had our meeting on I think it was Friday the 12th of November, October, I can't remember, but we talked about one of the reasons, Councilor Melton and Burke were in there, one of the reasons we talked about making this transition was to receive a higher rate of return. And again, my only question on this is that rate of return would stay in the general account and would not be given back to the departments specifically that are using their dollars to be leveraged for that rate of return.
So
correct?
if you would like the actual interest on that portion of the dollar amount, we can do calculations on the back end and then post the different amounts to the different departments. But one of the other reasons was efficiencies and not having to do all the back end accounting in order to get to the same goal of supporting the town. The capital expenses for parks and the fire department, we can track all of that, but we were focused on doing value add for, a new financial system and doing all that. If we are tracking all of these and trying to get down to the penny of how much is owed to parks and how much is owed to fire and the planning department and HR department, then that's going to take away opportunity cost for us to be able to do those value add things that will get us a lot farther in the long run.
Tammy, I don't take this the wrong way, but there seems to be a theme here, which is council asks for a little bit more detail and we're asked to give that up in the name of efficiency. And there has to be a balance here at some point because we have made
I'm not saying
numerous...
that we can't give it to you.
Well, I realize that, but every time we ask, it is yes, but it's more efficient to not. So could we not? I think we need to find, I don't want to ask something that's requiring hours and hours of your time staff, but I also am getting a little frustrated that every ask from this council is, well, it's not efficient, so we're just going to not do it. So my ask, I guess, is we collectively, administration and council, should come up with something that is reasonable, because it feels like this is a slippery slope of just transferring all the power over to the administration to do with what they want with the budget in the name of efficiency. And that's not really, I think, anyone's intention. And so figuring out something that, some of the concerns of Councillor Plunkett and others have raised to address them without being a burden would be an approach that I at least would appreciate as we continue to get asked to make these kinds of changes.
Yes, and I support that. Right now, the processes are very manual.
I understand.
Very manual.
I understand. But we did approve a brand new financial system. But I think if we transferred $3 million of parks funds into an accrued capital fund and that thing's, getting a 1% interest, it's not that hard to say, all right, well, that's 30 grand for the year and we're going to apply it to that capital fund within the parks fund to keep building on itself until it's spent down. And not trying to paraphrase for Councillor Plunkett, but I think it's little things like that unless I don't have the visibility you do, but I don't think that is a big ask. And if a process needs to change or a system is needed to help do that, I think this council is supportive. We very much want to be efficient and transparent, but also need to have some accountability as well.
Sure. And maybe instead of doing it monthly, because that would be the 12 transactions of doing that, maybe if we can do that annually and still meet the needs, then
Sure.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I think that would be my ask when these questions come up, is let's figure out a way to achieve it without putting a big burden on you and your department.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Tammy.
Yes.
Tammy, on the money that that's moving over to the general fund, that money was accumulated over a period of time. By moving all this money into the general fund, does this reduce the opportunity for those funds to accumulate the same way they did in the past? Or does that controller come from you or the town now, as opposed to the way, say, the fire department was able to accumulate funds for these capital expenses? Can this increase? Can this fund increase? Does it have the freedom to increase the way it did previously? Or now that it's captured under the general fund, it can't do that anymore?
So I'll use the fire department. I'll use the fire department as an example. The fire department has a separate capital fund, the fire cumulative fund. And since the general fund dollars are earmarked for capital as well, they now have two pots of money in order to use for capital expenses. The cumulative fund will be funded at the same level as it is today. So there's a cap on what we can statutorily receive in property tax levy. And so, as we mentioned during the budget process, that amount will continue to accumulate in that fire capital fund. And then with the general fund, again, for all of the funds, there is a maximum that we can collect in property tax levy. And then the income tax amount is certified by the state. So again, we don't control the dollar amounts of those, just where those dollars go. And some of them are capped, and some of them we have a little bit of flexibility. If, say, streets has more need in one year, then we can shift some of that property tax dollar and lit dollars in there. So we do expect the specific dollars for the fire department capital to continue to accumulate for those capital needs in that specific capital fund. And that's the intent of that for fire department equipment, and also for any new fire stations, land, and things like that would be included in that fire cum fund. And then in the general fund, we expect that cash balance to grow as well. And some of those dollars we would like to put into the rainy day fund, as we've mentioned before. So we're working on getting together some resolutions on that. And again, both the rainy day fund and the general fund are all in support of the general town operations. But the general fund would continue to accumulate, and then those dollars are then divvied out based on need of the different departments over time. So Parks Department has a capital need in one year, the Fire Department has a capital need in the other one, and Streets Department might have a capital need in another year, right? And so we are able to balance all of that within the dollars that are coming in for the town.
Thank you.
Councilors, any other questions on this? Any motions on this? All right, I will make a motion to approve. Seconds from Councilor Choi. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton. Okay.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
No.
Thank you.
Resolution 2020-18 passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Next, we've got a consideration of a resolution regarding the use of certain funds for the town of Zionsville, Indiana Fire Department, very similar to what we just heard. Resolution 2020-19. Tammy, anything different in this than the last one outside of it being fire versus parks?
Nope, just fire versus parks. So this one is for the fire department.
Counselors, any questions on this? Any motions?
Move to adopt. Brad.
Got a first from Counselor Burke. I will second. Oh, I'll give that to Counselor Joe. Counselor Colt. Let me start calling you Counselor Joe.
Okay.
Amy?
President Garrett.
Yes.
Vice President Traylor.
Yes.
Counselor Burke.
Yes.
Counselor Choi.
Yes.
Counselor Colt.
Yes.
Counselor Melton.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
No.
Thank you.
Resolution 2020-19 passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Next, we have a consideration of a resolution encumbering funds. This is the CCD and MVH, Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, and Cumulative Capital Development Fund. This is resolution 2020-20. Tammy, you're a popular one today.
Thank you for helping me get through all these year-end processes. So the encumbrance resolution is basically saying that the council is approving the dollars to be that were previously appropriated in the 2020 budget to be moved to the 2021 budget, giving the departments the ability to finish these items that were originally anticipated for 2020. So there are 4 items on the line itemed out, and there are 3 for the CCD fund and 1 for the motor vehicle highway fund.
And Tammy, does this need to be done, has to be done today, essentially, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
By year end in order to move over to 2021.
All right.
And Tammy, I don't know if you have it available. I mean, it's just from a clarity standpoint for the public that don't read this. I mean, could you very briefly sort of summarize what those 4 things are?
Absolutely.
And I know it was in our packet, like a.
Yep.
Well, it was this version was not in our packet.
All of the attachments were in there as far as the detail of each of the items. All the contracts were included in the original packet.
But the resolution changed.
There was 1 item on the resolution that was referencing the packet that did change. So the 3 items for CCD were a leaf vac, a wood chipper, and then also the audiovisual improvements to the council chambers to better account for virtual meetings due to COVID now, the new normal. And then the motor vehicle highway, there was a contract amount for 800 East roundabout for contractual services.
That's what the gentleman spoke today, Mr. Hendricks, I believe, on as well. Okay, councilors, any questions on those 4 items? Again, my understanding. Go ahead.
If the information or if the stuff regarding the audiovisual for the town hall as a result of COVID is being transferred to 2021, do we have any ability to get any used CARES Act money or any government money to replenish that, or is that just, or have we already done that?
So that was not included in our original submission for the CARES Act. And then the CARES Act changed the rules for how we were to submit and receive the dollars. Because we know that some of the local income tax dollars are going to be reduced in future years, we did allocate $523,000 to the public safety expenses. So it would increase our cash balance in the public safety lit fund by the $523,000. So if council wishes to do something different and to instead use those dollars for the general fund, then we might need, there could be actions done in 2021 that would be able to account for that. But right now we have the majority of the dollars going to the public safety lit fund.
Okay, but I guess maybe I was just talking just about the audiovisual stuff for the town council. That's something that we're going to pay for and not worry about using CARES Act money for, correct?
Correct. The CARES Act money is capped for the town, and the next submission that we can do, the money has to be spent by 12/31 of this year.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And again, these are all monies that we've already budgeted for. It's just we didn't get time to spend it.
It is appropriated dollars.
Yeah. Councilors, any other questions? Any motions?
I'll make a motion for resolution 2020-20.
You cut out for 1 second. Is that for approval, Councilor Melton?
Yes.
Okay. Got it first from Councilor Melton. Any seconds? Second from Councilor Burke. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Traylor,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
There we go.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Very good. Resolution 2020-20 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have
make a comment real quick.
Sure.
So,
please,
Tammy, I know that there's been a little adjustment getting used to all of us and us getting used to how the processes are, but as the year runs to a close, I know I express from my own personal opinion and the opinion of others on the council that you've done a great job in bringing all this forth and explaining things to us. And I know we don't always agree eye to eye on processes or how things are done, but I think you and your team have done a remarkable job in this year of a lot of challenges of bringing us great information and help guide council through these difficult topics. So thank you.
Thank you.
well, and you're not done yet, Tammy.
I know, one more.
I think you have 2 more, actually.
Do
Sorry.
Okay.
You first, well, we're on E. So this is a consideration of a resolution authorizing certain appropriation transfers for year-end fiscal administration. This is resolution 2020-21. Anything you'd like us to know about this?
Sure. So this is the, again, another year-end process that you will see annually. And this is allowing our office to make the annual adjustments from category to category, line to line, in order to make the line 0 basically in that appropriation report that you'll see at the end of the year. There are going to be some claims between December 21st and December 31st that we will need to process: utility bills, credit card bills, and those kind of things. And so this is just allowing us to make those payments and then to balance the year-end amounts at that time that we close 2020.
Heather,
and then the information will then be presented after all of that is done. It will be presented at the next available meeting after we have completed that review.
Heather, we've done this every year, haven't we?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to confirm that. Counselors, any questions on what Tammy presented there?
No, sorry, I thought I had one, but nope.
With no questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Counselor Burke.
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton. Okay,
Is that a yes from Counselor Mountain?
it's on mute, but I think that was a yes. Was that a yes, Counselor Culp?
I heard Counselor Culp. Counselor Melton, I didn't hear.
He's frozen.
Okay.
We'll just have to skip him then. I don't want to
Okay.
assume his vote.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
All right, resolution 2020-21 passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 frozen. Next and last for new business, we've got a consideration of an ordinance setting the town of Zionsville, Indiana fee schedule. This is a first reading in ordinance 2020-21. Tammy, this is your last one, I promise.
So this fee schedule is something a little bit different as far as the structure goes than was done in the past. Normally there were fees in one ordinance and fees in another ordinance. And this is just an effort to get them in one place. As you'll notice, most of the fees have not changed. The ones that have changed, you'll see on the ordinance where it references what the fee was in 2020 and then what the proposed amount is in 2021. You'll see the citations for the ordinances or Indiana code. Some of the fees are actually set by statute at the Indiana legislature. So we wanted to put those citations in there in order to make sure that if the legislature changed any of the amounts, then our ordinance would it would be a trigger for us to update our fees as well as what we're charging. So I open it up for questions.
Tammy, who's driving a lot of these fee increases? I know a lot of them seem to be related to things that deal with students and camps and stuff like that. Is this coming from the mayor's office, or
so
who's proposing these?
Sure, and I'll let you guys know how our internal process kind of works, and that a lot of what we present to council is a collaboration of a lot of different departments. So the fee schedule is a good example of that. So communications actually did a great job and helped with facilitating getting the information from the department. So these are actually coming from each of the departments. And what I'm doing is merely combining them and then presenting them to council for approval. And so the departments have worked really hard and have looked at the comparisons and gotten that to the council members for your review as well. And if you have any questions, it would actually go to the specific departments. I know there might be a question on parks, and Jared should be available should you have a question directly on a specific fee.
One question I had, I guess, and Pam, you may not be able to answer this or not, but I noticed that like special events fees, it looked like those special events formerly paid our fire and police personnel directly, meaning they were off duty. Mm-hmm. Now they're paying the town and they're on duty. I know a lot of our officers, actually, maybe could Captain Clayton get promoted? Because I would like to ask him if we're now paying the town and now having on duty. I guess I have two questions. One is, how does that impact their on duty officers for their normal duties? But also I'm more concerned about, it can be a nice little side income for our officers to work some of these events. Captain, did you hear my questions there?
I think I caught most of it there on that. So when we're putting the officers on duty to work these fees, they're still making extra pay, right? So we're going to take guys that are not working the road and they're going to come in off duty and work these events. What it does is allow some protection in case that officer gets while on that detail. It puts them on our workman's comp insurance and everything there. In the event they do get hurt or need to take police action, they're working for the town and not for the event.
Got it. So if we're having Fall Festival and you've got an officer that's working that event in conjunction with Fall Festival, he or she has not necessarily been taking off their road duty to do it. They are doing it, I'm assuming on a, I don't want to call it a volunteer basis, but they're being asked, hey, here's an opportunity to work this. They're being paid by the town, but they're being paid extra for it. So
that's correct. And the town sponsors numerous events that falls under our process anyway, that's going to be covered. But another event that comes in, they'll be coming in on an off-duty basis and working that event. So we're not going to reduce any road coverage. There'll be no impact in police services for the citizens of the town. What it'll do is just allow the officer to be on duty while working these events. So be very, very clear that that officer is on duty and working as a police function.
So not expecting any grumbling from the officers in terms of, well, I could have made extra money doing this, because they still have the opportunity, just under a better framework, correct?
Right. There's offered a little more protection when it comes to insurance and workman's comp and things like that.
Thank you. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
no problem.
Counselors, other questions?
Not really a question so much as a statement, since there's quite a bit to this and it did come in late. If you're ready, I would make a motion to continue this to our next meeting so that we have more time to review.
Tammy, if it's continued, is there any, I mean, I know you want to get this done. I know there's a dog park that people want to use and whatnot, but if it's continued, there's no necessarily year-end thing that's driving this introduction, correct?
No, this was just intended to be an introduction to get it before counselors so that they could review it and then have some time to, we planned it intentionally over 2 meetings.
Yeah.
And so Heather, you can speak to the rules, but I have, as long as it's adopted on January 4th, to be able to implement the dog park fees is the urgency of it. Because people are waiting for that dog park, then that would be fine.
The council could always consider, since there's so much substance in this that you all haven't had a lot of time to review, you could also consider pulling out the dog park fee and bring that separately so we could adopt it in a single meeting. And then still have the opportunity for the public to weigh in over the next 2 meetings, with first introduction, second introduction in January. And then Tammy could just reconsolidate it for public, presentation all in one document. So it seems like the urgency is around the dog park fee, but if you want to go through and look at everything else, I think that would give you that option as well to sort of be able to accomplish both.
And Heather, if we introduce this on first reading today, and then want to make changes at the January 4th meeting, can we do so?
Yes, we
and
can.
Still adopt it on January 4th?
We just have to adopt an amended ordinance, but you can do that.
Then I will.
There are other fees too that are being increased on here too. It's not just adding the dog park.
Correct.
Right. The special events are new fees as well.
Yeah, and fees for kids who want to use some of our amenities that are students. I think it's important to consider the year we're in as it relates to raising any kind of fees. Tammy, was the 2021 budget created with this fee for parks or anybody else with this particular fee structure, or was it just based off of 2020 with the new ones?
I'd have to let Parks speak to the fees. I know some of the new fees were definitely included in the budget at the levels, I believe, but we try to underestimate that by a little bit, or find some middle ground between prior years in order to get a better estimate going forward. But again, the departments who are submitting their fees because they know the volume and what may or may not change their specific items.
Jared and I see both Jared and Mindy are now in the meeting. And I'm not sure if one of you wants to address that statement from Councilor Plunkett.
Absolutely. So this was getting finalized and brought forward as I was coming on board, so it's all a little new. But the main reason for increasing fees, and mostly just by $1 and such, is to cover the costs for the department. We are working on a cost recovery and getting that up to a percentage where we'll subsidize other programs. We're looking to provide programming to the entire community and every demographic. That includes seniors, adults, and children. So as we develop this more robust programming effort, we want to subsidize limited incomes for seniors as well as educational opportunity for children. So we will revisit this again, but moving forward, we want to establish those baselines and start recovering some of those costs. And if you look from this year until the proposed 2021, most increases are just $1, or it's for individual events like a birthday party, where that is a specialized event of our resources and amenities for, one resident and their party. So as the more concentrated the service is, there is more of a cost recovery.
Can we keep some of the money that is proposed to be transferred into the general account and use that to subsidize it? I mean, that's why it's there, right?
This will all these fees generated will stay within the non-reverting operations, which we plan to use to operate these new programs for staff, to fund the staff and to buy the items you need to run these programs, new equipment, a van, or just supplies for education. So really, it's just creating a cycle of funding ourselves to be less dependent on the general fund so we can provide more opportunities for the community. So those earmarked funds, those are for capital funds, but this revenue is more going to go right back into programming. So it funds itself.
Tammy, I know the mayor's on vacation. I can't ask her this. Has she signed off or supportive of these increases?
Yes, the departments, again, the information is coming from the departments, and in general, the administration is here to support the departments.
In general, has some vagueness to it. I mean,
she has not commented to me specifically on those fees.
I would love to hear, and just, I know and I wanted to take her time off, but I would love to hear from the mayor if we're being asked to raise rates for citizens, that she's on board with doing this as well, just to make sure that, we're all in the same boat, because it is an awkward time to be doing it, however, needed it may be, to start raising rates.
The parks is also a little bit different because they have a parks board. And so that's actually who signs off on the claims and things like that during the year. So Jared, can you speak to the parks board?
Well, the Parks Board just invested in a program study to help identify the needs of the community. So we are finalizing that study, and we'll know exactly what the community is asking for and identify those needs. So then in turn, we'll have these funds to fund those programs to provide a greater service. The alternative is these families are going to Carmel or they're going to Noblesville, and we're having our citizens go to other communities for those programs and that recreation that they desire. So the attempt is to build that here in-house. I'd also like to mention that one of my plans is to introduce a scholarship program. We do have a very engaged community, and I have no doubt we would be able to raise funds as donations as well to subsidize, lower income families that do want to attend programs, and all that can be implemented as well. This was just the first step in getting it in front of you as we move forward into the new year.
Thanks, Jared. And yeah, Tammy, I realize we do have the Parks Board, and most of these fee increases are coming from the parks. So it would be helpful for me to understand that, the mayor supports that coming from the Parks Board if the council is taking action. So if that's a message that could be
Great.
relayed
Yeah,
back,
we'll get
I'd
that to you
appreciate
before
that.
the 4th.
Okay, I appreciate that. Unless there's any other questions, there is a motion to continue from Vice President Traylor. Councilors, did you have any other questions before I ask for a second?
I guess I just have one question for Jared, and hey, welcome to the council meeting. Good to see you. I'm excited that the study is going on. I think it's important, and some of the stuff you and I talked about when we first met, kind of the future of the town and what do people really want to see. It seems like, are we gonna? I guess there's two ways to look at this. One is you're going to need some extra dollars, and we don't know what the study is going to be, but we know there's going to be fees needed to do something, and or is it just a matter of timing? I'd like to see what all are we in for in terms of the vision of the Parks Board, and then what are the costs going to be to implement that? So it feels like we're putting the cart a little bit before the horse. And I don't know, Tammy, if that's just because we're stuck in a tight spot, and if we don't do this now, we're not going to be able to do it, or it just seems like we're kind of approving dollars for a vision of something that we don't know exactly what the study is going to look like for 2021. Does that make sense?
So with the parks operating fund, there are a certain number of dollars that are in there. The council has appropriated that this is how much the parks can spend, and we've done an estimate of these are the revenues that come in. So if for some of the programs we get more revenue in, then parks could ask for an additional appropriation to implement more programs in 2021, or that money will be sitting there for use in 2022. So it's the unique structure of those operating funds are that they can utilize the money that is there. And so that's what Jared was talking about when he said that some programs can subsidize other ones, because it's all based on that cash. And they will be keeping an eye on the programs, how much income is coming in and how much expenses for certain things, and be able to monitor and then be able to change as they need to in order to make the best experience for the residents.
Thanks, Councilor Burke. That's a good question. Okay, there's a motion to continue from Vice President Traylor. Got a second from Councilor Plunkett. Given the motion in a second, I'll take a roll call. Councilors, any questions before I do that? All right, Amy, motion to continue on the floor.
Okay, President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Traylor,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
No.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, ordinance number 2020-21 is continued until our next meeting with a vote of 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilors, any other matters you'd like to bring up today? Then I will move on to approval of claims. Any discussion on claims that were presented to us?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to continue claims as well. They didn't come in until after 5 o'clock on Friday.
We also had a network outage on Friday. And so we were, as that being the last meeting of the year, we needed to get those expenses in, and we wanted to make sure it was correct without corrections.
Tammy, if claims are continued, what's the impact of that? From a budget standpoint?
I believe, Heather, you can correct me, but we would only be able to pay out the utilities and credit cards, and we'd have to pull out all of the other expenses and then book those to 2021.
Right. Yeah.
Because they require council approval.
Have these claims already been approved or have they already been paid? Like when I look here and I see check dates and I see credit card, a card statement here. Does that mean these have already been paid? Would we have to actually go back and ask them for money back?
So there are advance claims that we can pay before council approval. And those are the ones that I mentioned that I would be able to pay between December 21st and December 31st that were not included on the docket. And so that's why you see a few of those check dates. For any of the other items, they are held until council approval. So the checks will not be cut until after your approval for the remaining items.
So on the card statement at the bottom, there's a lot of REMC stuff. And then as I emailed about yesterday and Saturday, on 11/13, it shows a transaction date for $16,380 for November legal. Has that already been paid?
The credit card payments are set to come out on the particular date. So those ones will be paid before they are due. And those are, we have the ability to pay those. And so, yeah, those would already be paid,
So
or
those are paid.
will be coming due. If they are coming due, they will be paid.
But for example, I mean, I guess I'm asking about specific transactions that show on this card detail report. Those have already been paid, correct?
Correct.
So if we didn't approve claims, or if we continued claims, what's the process for having something redacted or taken out of there?
I mean, it's a credit card purchase. So you would first dispute it with the vendor. And then if that doesn't work, you can dispute it with the card bank.
Well, I feel like we would dispute it with the administration. I mean, I feel like if we're basically voting to approve claims for things that are already paid, as opposed to, I guess, again, cart before the horse. I'm really having a hard time here.
So when the council approves a budget, then they are approving certain spend to come out of those budgets. So if those are in line with the budget, then those are able to come out. If it's paid on a credit card, which, as we talked about, has the rebate incentives and other benefits for processing than the claims. And so, as I mentioned, if there is something that needed to be modified or changed, then the council is still reviewing and has all the detail of the transactions and is reviewing it at that time. But those are considered advance claim payments and are therefore able to be paid.
So are we paying, because we're paying some of these with card, are we paying more? When I go back and look at the retainer fees specifically for Giddings and Whitsett, it's been $15,000 pretty much month in and month out, and now it's $16,380. Is that
so? As with any legal, there's retainer matters and non-retainer matters. And Heather, you can speak on this as well. But there are certain things that are outside of the retainer, and I believe that those were included in some of the information that you had requested, the detail, and been provided. That you'll notice that there's more than just a retainer for the different legal entities involved with the town.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going with that is, to your point. I mean, you look at the Barnes and Thornburg legal line. I mean, that's the normal retainer, and then there's another line item for other services, but you don't see that for all the other services. I guess I'm having a hard time with claims that are detailed and specific when they need to be, but maybe when somebody doesn't want them to be, they're not. I'm having a hard time with that.
And again, once we go to a more automated process, this will help. As you noted, that the description is different on both of them because they're having to be manually entered in two different places. There's no import into our current financial system. Once we go to the new system, then we can make it more robust and make it a single description that carries forward to the line. But right now, we're relying on a person to process all of the claims that you see in Keystone, as well as making the changes in the purchase card system. And so we are working to streamline those things to get you more consistent information.
Seems like we've been working on streamlining claims for a long time.
And I want to check one thing on the actual claims. Hold on one moment.
When are we going to the new system?
So right now, the go live is slated for April for the financial system, and know that we're also implementing the permitting system at the same time. So we have about 4 meetings a week with the company, the vendor that is providing these services. And then there'll be another system on top of that in the spring, summer, which will be the utility billing system. So it is an ongoing process and will take some time in order to get all the settings set up and then get all the employees trained on utilizing the system and then actually being able to produce reports for council out of it. So we will be doing dual entry for 2021 to start. So again, for a short time, we want to make sure that all of the information that you're seeing is in there. And so we will be still providing the Keystone reports to start because we haven't trained and got all the settings in there. We have to get vendor information out of one system and into another system. So it will be an intensive process for my staff. And so we will try our best to make sure that everything gets in there, but we will be overwhelmed for a short period of time while we're getting all this in there.
So for the information in the Keystone system, is there a data dump or a mapping into the new system, or you have to keep both systems, the information in the Keystone system separate indefinitely?
We will probably, because Keystone is such an older product, we have to find a FoxPro database, how to read that. And so nothing is automated right now with Keystone, and pulling the information out is going to be difficult, but IT is working on it, and we're going to do our best to figure out a way to make this go as smoothly as possible.
Councilor Choi too. I mean, it is, I don't know government systems, but ERP systems, it's not unusual. Actually, it's more unusual to take the time it's taken in terms of the shortness. It's not unusual for these things to take much longer, sometimes years for more complicated organizations. So I'm not surprised to hear, we're all anxious for it, right? But I'm not surprised to hear the length of time it has taken. There's certainly high expectations for once it's implemented for that. Tammy, one question I think Jason was alluding to, and I'm not sure it's fully answered. We are only paying cards, but we're only paying with card if there's no merchant fee associated with that. In other words, administrative legal fees. I understand there may be some variability there, but we're not paying a 3% service fee to pay that because that obviously would outweigh the benefit we're getting from the card itself.
Correct, and that's correct. There are certain exceptions that if credit card is the only way to pay, and then we would pay by credit card and pay that fee. Similar to if we had a fee and for some reason we had it to where it can only be processed online and the customer is required to pay that fee, that would be the only exception to that. But yes, for the example of the legal, there is no fee charged on top of that. We only get the benefit of that.
And just for my own education, I understand that these have been budgeted, but assuming a fee was paid with a credit card that this council just disagreed with, there is a manner to have it reversed.
Mm-hmm.
If council in some means, and I'm not saying what happened here, right? But let's say there was, a Boone REMC fee that we're like, nope, we're not paying that. And it's already been paid on a credit card, but it's not approved on the claims. That will have to be credited back on the credit card until there's an approval from council, correct? So the credit card is not a way to circumvent the controls that were put in place by the reorg, correct?
No, that is correct.
Right. Heather, that's your understanding as well. Okay, very good. Vice President Schiller, did you make a motion to continue or you just made a statement to continue?
I made a motion to continue.
Okay. I'm a little nervous continuing this, just given the year-end nature and what this may do, unless there's a specific concern. I understand your concern and the timing, and I'm also hoping that the new process we have in place helps that. But there's a motion on the table from Vice President Trillis to continue claims. Is there a second for that motion?
I would second that motion.
Was that Councilor Melton?
Councilor Plunkett?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was Councilor Plunkett. Sorry about that. Amy, there's a motion to continue and a second to continue. Can you roll call that?
Yes. President Garrett,
No.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
No.
Councilor Choi,
No.
Councilor Culp,
No.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
All right, motion to continue fails, not reaching the 4 fails. 4 no, 3 yes. With that, I will make a motion to approve claims. Is there a second for that?
A second.
A second from Councilor Culp. Amy, can you go through that process?
Yes. President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
No.
Councilor Burke,
Yeah.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
No.
Councilor Plunkett.
No.
Thank you.
All right, claims are approved by a vote of 4 in favor, 3 opposed. That's the closest we've ever had for claims. We've got, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
Oh boy. Second from Vice President Trailer. Amy, last
President
time?
Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yep.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Motion to adjourn is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, Monday, January 4th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. Determination of the need for a solely electronic meeting will be evaluated prior to the meeting and final notice will be posted in compliance with Indiana open door law. Thanks everyone. Happy holidays, happy new year, and see you next year.
You.
Take care.
Thank you.
Merry
Bingo.
Christmas.